So our mission today is to go on our own little album quest right into round one, group 227, which has this amazing title, A Swift Blue Chic Affair.
I love that title. It already tells you how eclectic this matchup is going to be.
So let's meet the contenders. It's a really unlikely mix. First up, you have the sheer power of Tina Turner's 1989 album, Foreign Affair.
Then you jump forward to a modern pop classic, Taylor Swift's 1989.
Then we have the sort of intricate, poetic British pop of the Beautiful South with their album Blue is the Color.
And finally, you go all the way back to The Godfathers, Chic's greatest hits on vinyl, the guys who basically invented modern dance music.
It's a battle of completely different philosophies, you know? Big budget spectacle against nuanced songwriting.
How do you even begin to compare them? That's what makes this so interesting.
Well, the author gave us a good starting point. He said he flew through this group and called it one of the most enjoyable round one groups for a while.
And he also says there was not really a bad album here. That's so important because it means the difference between winning and losing is going to be tiny.
Exactly. When all four albums are good, you have to look for the small things, the sequencing, the pacing, maybe one or two weaker tracks.
Those are the things that are going to decide who moves on.
Okay, so let's start with that first big contrast. The massive scale versus intricate design. We're putting Tina Turner's Foreign Affair head-to-head with the Beautiful South's Blue is the Color.
This is such a great pairing. It's like a clash of musical cultures. You've got this late 80s high-gloss, massive production sound.
And then you've got the subtlety and the lyrical complexity of the Beautiful South.
And let's start with Tina. I mean, where do you even begin with Tina Turner?
You have to start with the voice, right? The source material says she has this immaculate vocal talent and so much power, energy, and verve that could make the phone book sound compelling.
And that's so true. She's just one of those artists. The reviewer even mentions having a mixtape with We Don't Need Another Hero and Private Dancer on it. So that's the standard.
Right. This album isn't just competing in the group, it's competing against the memory of her greatest hits.
So what does Foreign Affair actually sound like? The description is perfect. It's a big budget production sound.
It's that ultra-professional, cigar-chomping, big studio LA sound. You can just picture it, can't you?
Oh, totally. Every single note is polished. Every musician is the best in the business. It was built for stadiums.
And that's where the analogy comes in. If these albums were football grounds, Foreign Affair is Wembley Stadium.
The biggest, the slickest, the most professional stage you can imagine.
And some of the tracks absolutely live up to that. The openers, Steamy Windows, and of course, Simply the Best.
I mean, come on. Simply the Best is an anthem. It's just massive.
It is. And he also points out Undercover Agent for the Blues as another real highlight.
So the album can deliver that classic Tina magic. But here's the catch with that big LA sound.
It needs the songs to back it up.
Exactly. And the critique here is that maybe only one or two tracks on the whole album really reach the level of her all-time greatest hits.
And that's the detail that matters in a competition like this. Her voice is incredible, but even she can't elevate tracks that are just slightly mediocre.
Yeah, he specifically calls out, you know who is doing who to what, and be tender with me, baby.
In this kind of head-to-head listening, that small dip in quality can be fatal.
It really makes you wonder, is it better to have an album with 3 absolute 10 out of 10 masterpieces and some filler, or one that's a consistent 7 or 8 all the way through?
And in this case, it seems like that little bit of mediocrity was enough to hold it back.
But the musicianship is undeniable. The reviewer talks about the sumptuous musicality, and he actually looked up who played on it.
And his suspicions were correct. You've got Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits on the title track.
Of course you do. And then you have these legendary session guitarists like Tony Joe White and Pat Thrall. It's an all-star team.
It's a machine, a perfectly engineered professional music machine.
Okay, so from the bombast of Wembley Stadium.
We're now going to travel to Loftus Road, a much more intimate venue.
A great way to put it. We're leaving Foreign Affair behind and jumping into the Beautiful South's Blue is the Color. This album trades that huge budget for intricate craftsmanship.
It's such a pivot. Turner's album is all about sound and power. This one is all about poetry and emotion.
And right away, Blue is the Color makes a huge impression. The reviewer says the first half is extremely compelling.
He says it easily rivals the more washed-out offering of Foreign Affair. That's a strong statement.
That initial impact is so important for getting into the top 2. The opening tracks, Don't Marry Her, Little Blue, and Mirror, they just grab you.
But unlike Tina's album, which is pretty consistent in its sound, this one has a pacing issue. The source says it peters out a little bit after the song Rotterdam.
It's a classic case of front-loading an album, right?
Yeah.
You put your absolute strongest material right at the beginning to hook the listener.
But then you risk not being able to maintain that energy for the whole runtime.
And that's where other albums can kind of catch up in a comparative listen.
Of course, the genius behind The Beautiful South is Paul Heaton, the lyrics.
Oh, he's a master? Described as lyrically vivid and intellectual, he weaves this incredible poetic wordsmithing into these beautiful, elegant melodies.
His whole thing is blending that bitterness and cynicism with gorgeous tunes. I mean, Don't Marry Her.
It's so brutal, but the melody is so catchy and sweet. That's his magic trick, that blend of depression and melody.
The reviewer does note that sometimes his metaphors can escape the listener, that they're a bit too complex.
And that's a really interesting point in a competition. Does an album that requires deep study and multiple listens have an advantage or a disadvantage against something that's pure, immediate pop pleasure?
Yeah, does accessibility beat depth in this format?
Let's use a specific example from the album, the track Liar's Bar. The reviewer calls it a classic example of his social and biographical storytelling.
And Heaton really commits to it. He uses this rasping vocal to embody the character he's portraying. He's fully in character.
You get this whole story, this complex portrait of a person. But, and this is the crucial part, the reviewer says that while the lyrics are great, the tune less so.
And that's it right there. That's the whole album quest in a nutshell. If the melody isn't as strong as the lyrics, does it have enough musical momentum to win?
It seems like, for Blue is the Color, the lyrical genius was just enough to get it over the line into that second spot. It's an intellectually satisfying record.
But that reliance on nuance is a risk, especially when you're up against the kind of immediate, high-impact music we're about to get into.
A perfect transition. We are leaving the stadiums and the pubs behind, and we are jumping straight onto the dance floor.
Yeah, first back to the 70s for the foundational DNA of disco, and then rocketing forward to a synth-pop masterclass from the 2010s.
I love how this quest just time travels all over the place.
So we have to start with Chic. We're looking at Chic's greatest hits on vinyl. And you just can't overstate their importance, can you?
No, it's an understatement to even try. Chic, with Nile Rodgers on guitar, they literally set the template for disco funk back in the 1970s.
Pretty much any pop or dance music you hear today owes something to what they were doing.
That guitar sound, it's so tight, so percussive, but it just floats. He's a genius. And the songs mentioned, La Freak, Everybody Dance, they're not just songs, they're standards.
And what's interesting is the reviewer notes that even though it's disco, the songs retain a rock and roll vibe.
Totally. It wasn't just strings and schmaltz. It had this real rhythmic drive, this edge to it, which is why it still sounds so fresh. It just makes you want to move.
Okay, so the music is legendary, it's influential, it's infectious. So why would a greatest hits collection from Chic not just walk away with this?
This is where the format gets really specific. You're not just judging the songs, you're judging the compilation itself, the curation.
And the flaw he found was in the sequencing. Specifically, the last two tracks on the record, Good Times and My Feet Keep Dancing.
He says they became a little samey.
And for a greatest hits album, he says that's not a great sign.
And that's a totally fair criticism. The job of a best of is to showcase the artist's range and impact. If the final tracks start to feel like you're hearing variations of the same idea, then the compilation hasn't done its job perfectly.
So the problem isn't with Chic's music, it's with this specific collection of their music. It just couldn't maintain that feeling of novelty all the way to the end.
And that failure of consistency sets the stage perfectly for the album that absolutely nailed modern consistency and polish.
Here we go. The dark horse champion of the group, Taylor Swift's 1989.
This is such a great story because the reviewer came into this with, let's say, a healthy dose of skepticism.
He admits he didn't really know her work. He mentions the hilarious goat meme and being kind of unimpressed by a performance of Shake It Off.
So he's a total outsider, being forced to listen with critical ears. And that's what makes the result so powerful.
So what changed his mind? What brought her back into his mind sphere, as he puts it?
It was a much later single, Anti-Hero. He just gushes about it, says it's so good, it's arguably the best song I've heard in 12 months.
That's huge praise, and that made him go back and listen to her older stuff.
And when he spun 1989, her fifth album, he was just blown away. He calls it a damn fine record.
He says it's expertly arranged and produced, and that the material sparkles. It clearly had that sustained quality that he felt Foreign Affair was missing.
And structure is so important in this quest. 1989 has this killer opening. It starts with the staccato synth opener of Welcome to New York.
Which immediately leads into the superbly crafted blank space. I mean, that's a 1-2 punch that's hard to beat.
It just establishes this incredibly high level of quality right from the start, and it doesn't really let up.
Yeah.
Even on this winning album, the reviewer finds a flaw.
Yes, the micro grievance. We have to talk about this because it's such a great example of deep critical listening.
It is. It's all about the sequencing of two songs. He has an issue with All You Had to Do Was Stay being placed right before Shake It Off.
Okay, so let's break that down. All You Had to Do Was Stay is a really emotional, sincere song about a failed relationship. It has real weight.
Right. And then, boom, the very next track is the super upbeat mega hit Shake It Off. And in that song, there's that very meta, self-aware lyric.
I go on too many dates, but I can't make them stay.
And there it is, that one word. The clever, funny line in the big pop hit directly undercuts the genuine emotion of the song that just ended.
It's like the album winks at you and breaks character for a second.
Exactly. It's the definition of the small things that bother me. A casual listener would never even notice that. But when you're listening back to back repeatedly for a competition,
these little narrative glitches stand out.
But here's the most important part. Even with that tiny flaw, the album still won. The overall quality of songs like Out of the Woods, Bad Blood, Wildest Dreams, it was just too strong.
And you have to mention the production. The influence of Max Martin, who he calls a music-making magician, is all over this record.
It is, but the reviewer's very careful to give Taylor Swift the credit. He says she clearly remains chief architect of these songs.
She's the one bringing the emotion, the personality, and what he calls that buoyant popability, the ability to make deep feelings sound light and catchy.
And his final verdict is this really honest admission. He just says, she is a much bigger talent than I had realized.
And that's the whole point of the quest, right? To strip away your preconceptions and just listen to the music.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've been through 4 very different albums. Now it's time for the final results and to connect some of the strange coincidences in this group.
Before we get to the final ranking, we have to talk about the 1989 coincidence. This is just bizarre.
It really is. It's this weird triple connection, all centered on that one year.
So Tina Turner's album, Foreign Affair, came out in 1989.
Taylor Swift, the artist, was born in 1989.
And the winning album is called 1989.
It's just a fun little piece of trivia, but it does add this feeling that the whole contest was kind of fated, doesn't it?
And he adds a footnote about this. He points out that he now owns albums called 1984, 1987, and 1989.
Right, and the other two are these huge 80s metal albums, Van Halen's 1984 and Whitesnake's 1987.
So you have these two stadium metal classics right next to this synth pop masterclass. It just shows how dominant that decade was for big commercial music.
And his conclusion is just a fun little personal note. See, everything from the 80s is great.
All right, let's not delay it any longer. The final rankings for round 1, group 227. This decides who moves on and who goes home.
Okay, here we go.
In 4th place, and eliminated, was Chic's Greatest Hits vinyl.
And in 3rd place, also eliminated, was Foreign Affair by Tina Turner.
Which means progressing in 2nd place, squeaking through on the strength of its first half, Blue is the Color by the Beautiful South.
And taking the #1 spot, the surprise champion of the group, is 1989 by Taylor Swift.
That's a huge result. Modern, polished synth pop just beat out legacy rock, foundational disco, and really complex poetic pop.
And this is where we have to ask, so what? What does this outcome actually tell us about the quest's values?
It seems to prioritize sustained, high-level quality above all else. 1989 was just relentlessly good from start to finish.
Think about the albums that lost. Tina's album had the voice and the budget, but it had a few weak spots. Chic had the influence, but the compilation itself had a structural flaw.
And Swift's album just didn't have those dips. It was consistent.
And that battle for 2nd place is also really telling. Blue as Dishiller got through because its first half was so intellectually and melodically gripping.
It took bigger risks than Turner's album, and those risks paid off enough to secure a spot.
It just reinforces that in this format, you need to command the listener's attention and hold it. The second an album feels slightly mediocre or samey, it's vulnerable.
And the big lesson here is just being open to reevaluating things. The Quest forced the reviewer to ignore the name on the cover and just listen to the music, and 1989 was the one that sparkled the most.
It's been a real journey through this group. We've gone from LA studios to British pubs to 70s dance floors.
We have. And while it's always great to go back to legends like Chic and Tina Turner, this whole exercise proved that sometimes the best crafted modern work can absolutely take the crown.